Alright, we are recording, and you can see I'm bald. Put in a new light, because when one light goes out, I don't have many lights in this room. I'm used to dim light. My eyes are sensitive enough for it, but when one light goes out, then it becomes really dark. But here, I can adjust this. Let's see. No, but I can do that. No, that's not what I want. So, yeah, that looks okay. Alright, so, continuing in iRobot, catch that rabbit. Which at first I was thinking it might have been a reference to Alice in Wonderland. But no. We get the reference later on. It's that you the first step to making rabbit stew is to catch the rabbit. So it's because they are running into this issue and they need to figure out what they know something wrong is happening, but they don't know what. They need to figure that out first. That's what the whole thing is about. And in some ways, I like that because I have been doing QA work in one way or another for 13 years? No, sorry, 14 years. Even that doesn't quite seem right. It feels like that was too short. But yeah, I've been doing it for quite a while, and that's essentially what Donovan and Powell are doing here, is QA work. Quality assurance work. I'm mainly doing it in software. They would be doing it both software and hardware. Field test engineers, as described in the book, but today, now it'd be QA. QA testers, QA analysts, or QA engineers, you would call them. One thing, though, that I didn't care much for with this chapter is their personalities don't seem right. We might be able to ascribe it to they are frustrated. Hang on. Just a moment. Yeah, their personalities seem off. Like, they are much quicker to anger, both of them, at each other. Much quicker to snap. And it might just be, oh, well, they're frustrated, but it's like, yeah. But I don't feel we're setting that up quite right. They're getting frustrated by if we go with that as the explanation, they're getting frustrated at events outside of what is specifically written. And I feel like unless you're going to be a little bit more obvious, it feels more like their relationship, their friendship is just quite strained. And I don't think that's quite right here. It feels too different, their relationship. But still, we do get some good lines out of them. Like Donovan commenting about Powell. It's about time you got the red tape out of your pants and went to work. It's like, yeah, he is more the stickler. I will also grant that, though. He is much more the stickler in this than the prior two stories that featured the two of them. Yeah, we get some other nice lines in here, like the unwritten motto of United States Robotics and Mechanical Men Corp was well known. No employee makes the same mistake twice. He is fired the first time. It's funny to me. Yeah, just realized I need to adjust that. Just a highlight here. A curious reference to something that I should actually check how old the book is. A reference to the Luminiverse ether, which certainly within Asimov's lifetime, he would have learned that was false. But it also would have been in his lifetime that you still would have had a concept of it, at least. So here, let me... Actually, that's true. If I can just get like a Wikipedia article or something on him, that's all I really need. Yeah, 1920 to 1992. That would cover it. Come on. 1950 is when iRobot. Okay. Now that should have been known by then. Well, depending on when it was written, no, it's possible. It's possible that he wouldn't have known that. So the Luminiverse ether, because I should explain that, is an old concept because for a long time there was a debate, an active debate: is light a particle or a wave? We now know it is both. Particle and wave has that duality to it. In order for it to be a wave, though, there must be a medium. So, for example, a sound wave, we use the medium of air most commonly, and it's carrying to the to the microphone there. But if light is a wave, it must have some medium that it travels through, and that is called the luminiferous ether. It's actually kind of funny. It's not. I'm in the greater Cleveland area, and it was in Cleveland. That the Michelson and Morley experiment was done. That basically showed that there is no way the luminiferous ether makes any sense. But still, it is kind of funny to see that there. Because it does date the story, and it is it is also possible that even at 1950, if it came out then, because he would have very likely grown up being taught about the luminiferous ether, that's simply what he would go to anyway. Would they stop texting me, please? I have no idea why. Anyhow. But yeah, I mean, it would be like it. Actually, I'm trying to think. Do I know something that is wrong that I haven't corrected mentally in my mind? I'm not sure. I mean, it's not Mandela effect kind of thing, but it is, like where growing up believed one thing, then changing into another. I guess one, but it's arbitrary, and I think was wrong to do. It would be like somebody talking about there being 9 planets, but because today there would be people saying, no, it's only 8. Pluto's a dwarf planet. It's like, no, it's not. No. If you want to say 10 and just make Charon also a planet, because some aspects of the definition of a planet I disagree with. It's like, do we really want to go that far? Like the whole they have to clear out their space. It's like, really? How necessary is that? Because there actually are, like Jupiter has 2 asteroid clumps, asteroid fields, not belts, but fields on either side of it. At least I'm pretty sure that's true of Jupiter, and I think Saturn as well. And it's just, they're basically caught in a balance of gravity. It's like, well, that's technically not cleared out the orbit. Well, but it's not cleared out. So is Jupiter not a planet? I mean, that's the stuff. It's, but it has sufficient gravity to pull itself to a sphere, in the case of Pluto. And it's like, okay, that one's kind of fair, but it's also well, what about a really young planet? It's like, well, those are protoplanets. Okay, is there such thing as a proto-dwarf planet? I mean, it's just... But the thing with Pluto and Charon, that definitely, full on, this is legit. The fact that they orbit each other with the center of gravity between them, not inside of either body, but between them, it's like, okay, yes, that is definitely a dual planet system. That, no argument there. Does that mean that they are not planets? No, I think that's silly. But to me, Pluto is a planet. Charon is just also a planet, too. I'd want to treat it that way. Or still say it's 9 because they are a dual planet system and just count that as only 1. But anyhow, that's the closest I could think of, is if you had somebody referring to 9 planets without any qualification and have somebody saying, well, no, it should be 8 because Pluto's a dwarf planet. Or, like what I just said, well, technically it should be 10. You count Charon equal to Pluto. Alright, that's enough of that talking. Want to also check this. And I am running out of time. So I'm just trying to decide, how can I... You know what? Yeah, why don't I just do it that way? Oh, no. I do want to mention this, because this is also talking about the character of Powell. He had once jumped out of the window of a burning house, dressed only in shorts and the handbook of robotics. In a pinch, he would have skipped the shorts. That's how important it is. And certainly for Powell, because he is very studious in that way. Like, he would care deeply about having that book. But it is also kind of silly, because, like, but why can't you get another? I mean, you'd think that it would be in print. No, don't need to worry about that highlight. Yeah, well, hang on. I'll read this one off, because this is definitely kind of the whole... They're fighting, they're arguing, in a way... Well, no, it's fighting. It's not arguing. It is actual fighting with each other. Your job, said Powell evenly, for the last 5 years has been to test new robots under actual working conditions for United States robotics. Because you and I have been so injudicious as to display proficiency at the task, we've been rewarded with the dirtiest jobs. That, he jabbed holes in the air with his finger in Donovan's direction, is your work. You've been griping about it from personal memory since about 5 minutes after US Robotics signed you up. Why don't you resign? And it's like, this... They are supposed to be friends. This it feels a bit sharper to me, so it feels off. But maybe this could have been written before, because it is a collection of stories that were collected into what we know as iRobot, but they were written out separately. Maybe this was more so their interaction when this story was written, and during the collection they did some things but didn't necessarily edit this, because it would require changing a lot of the contents. Like you would have to completely rewrite it, not just fix things up for continuity and coherence. And then there's also the whole, why does something invariably go wrong with them every time we have to do this? Because we're cursed. Let's go. That depending on how you want to believe it is stated, is actually pretty fair. There's also this. This again can just be banter. Pal said, Mike, you're right. Thanks, pal. I know I'd do it someday. Although... Oh, all right, and skip the sarcasm. We'll save it for Earth and preserve it in jars for future long, cold winters. Meanwhile, what emergency can we create? I'll explain that in a moment, because I haven't gotten to Dave yet. This is a bit long, how he's... Like, I know I'd do it someday. You can have a response there, but it did feel a little stretched. Which, again, it feels more barbed, how they're bantering. A little more mean to each other. Okay. So what is up with Dave? Well, Dave is one robot with 6 subsidiaries, so there's a total of 7. And Dave is the larger of them, is the more advanced. The subsidiaries are less capable, less intelligent as well. So the idea is you can put them down on an asteroid to mine, and he can control all of them to be more efficient. And they can... I would assume they can have some actions on their own, but by and large, no, they obey Dave completely. They are referred to as his fingers, that they are that closely tied. And also one thing about it that is kind of weird is that how are they connected? Not by radio or something else like that. No, by positron field. What's that? No one knows. Why are we doing this? I was like, that's kind of my question. Why are we doing this? Why are we using technology that we don't even understand how it functions at all? Why are we using that as a system here? But what ends up happening is every single time they are watching Dave, nothing goes wrong. But when they leave Dave and the subsidiaries on their own, something will go wrong. And when they start trying to watch them, like they don't bring any ore in, so they know something's wrong. But when they actually set up basically a camera to watch them, they will see that they start like going into marches or going into dance routines, and it's like, what? Why is this happening? And when they test Dave, everything is fine. So it's like everything checks out. When they tested a finger, well, didn't really test a finger, but they interviewed a finger to ask what happened, and the finger is actually aware of what's going on. But it's like, what? Any idea why this is happening? No. But you remember this? Yes. Just we were given an order, but before that really resolved, we were now being told to start marching or start dancing, whatever. It's like, do you know what that order was? No. Just had a sense of it there, but then we started getting these new orders. All right, so we know there's something wrong, but still can't figure it out. But they do eventually realize that every time that this started happening, there was an emergency that occurred first. And eventually what they come to realize is the robots have a sense that they have their own initiative. So, like, whether or not they should and should not do some action. And what must be happening is Dave's initiative level gets strained when commanding all 6. Because in an emergency, he's commanding all of them at the same time, as opposed to saying, you do this, you do this, you do this. It would say, you do this, like it's just too much for them. Okay, that is working. I changed a little bit of the settings in OBS so that hopefully this is at 60 FPS. It doesn't need to be, but it's like the camera's capable of it. I thought I had it set up that way before, but the camera's own software is a little weird, so I forced it in OBS. But it does seem to be working, so hey. So they create an emergency, and they see that, yes, this is in fact what's happening. That is when he starts needing to try to control all of them, the initiative drops out, and he basically just goes crazy. Because he's losing control. And he has no memory of it whenever this happens. It's too much of a mental strain, I guess you could say. They also end up getting themselves stuck with this emergency, though, so they need Dave to save him, and it's like, he's not responding at the moment. This is bad. This is real bad. They do solve it, though. Because they realize that, well, there's two solutions. One that they already know is if they come near. And this is something that it is kind of nuanced, but I also... I don't know. I don't necessarily care for it, but when a human being is near, the robot's initiative is less important. So the strain on it is lessened. Because just the presence of the human is enough, because like, oh, now we're following his orders, not just mine. So once you're doing that, then say, okay, can relax some, and so the pressure is off. And things will work fine. That's why watching them works. So that's one solution. The other is to somehow otherwise reduce the initiative, the initiative burden. And the solution they come up with, and yes, I am spoiling, is to shoot one of the robots, to destroy one of the subsidiaries, because now that, again, lessens the burden on Dave. And it works, and they get saved. Yeah, I'm not sure I really like some, it just seems odd, some of the interactions with the initiative, like the whole how it impacts whether or not, how it's impacted by a person being present. Just, it seems a little odd, some of that, but whatever. One thing, though, that I do like, but this is more of a me thing, is it is essentially they're doing QA testing. And as I said, I've been doing that work since like 2012, one way or another. And yeah, sometimes this is exactly how it goes, where you see that there's something wrong, and you start trying to drill down to figure out what it could be, and you don't know. You cannot figure it out. And you just need to start getting very creative in the testing to figure out what it could possibly be. And it could be something completely wild, completely off the wall, something no one would ever expect. I was like, I can remember one bug I found in a video game. That one was pretty bad. Where it completely it broke things so badly, so badly. I still don't actually know what caused it. I just know how how they end up fixing it. It had to do with certain positions, and so by just avoiding that position, they made it so you couldn't get something in that position. That fixed it. But it still is, sometimes, yeah, you don't know why something's going on. You just observe it, and then it's like, all right, well, you report it then. I would also dig down in to figure out why. But yeah, you would, sometimes is a, hey, we have a problem, I don't know why. Here's what the problem is, you report it, and hopefully someone else can figure it out. Donovan and Powell kind of stuck in that they're the ones who have to figure it out as well. Like they can't just report the problem, they need to find and diagnose. So yeah, in that way I like it, but it is, their characters didn't quite feel right. How they interact with each other wasn't quite right. So yeah, it's... but it does end with this. Because remember, this is all a framed narrative. The journalist is talking with Dr. Susan Calvin, who's retiring soon. And we actually come back to... Oh, one other thing. Did I mention that? It's never explained where Dave knew how to do the dances, knew how to do the marching. It's just that it's how it's described here. Whenever Dave became a psychiatric case, he went off into a moronic maze, spending his time twiddling his fingers. It's like, it was orchestrated, though. That's, I don't know, I don't quite like that. If it were more something... Hunt for Red October. The movie, at least. I haven't read the book. At some point I should. That may be a good one for this. Anyway, the whole crying home to mama thing about when the computer analyzes something, can't recognize it, it just falls back to magma displacement because it was originally made for tracking undersea tectonic movements. So it just as fallback. If it was something like that, like that's how they actually trained Dave initially for just testing, because they didn't have mining facilities. They just had them marching, had them dancing, and so he's falling back to that, but it's at an unconscious level, so that's why he's losing consciousness. That would have made sense. But instead, we just got, no, he's twiddling his fingers. It's like, But anyway, we're stepping out of the frame narrative now. Susan Calvin talked about Powell and Donovan with unsmiling amusement, but warmth came into her voice when she mentioned robots. Didn't take her long to go through the Speedies, the Cuties, and the Daves, and I stopped her. Otherwise, she would have dredged up half a dozen more. Because he wants something more, well, something happening on Earth, and also something more so what she is doing. So the next story is called Liar, with an exclamation point. But it's also an interesting one. And even she is teasing as being interesting. And I don't quite remember this story. It talks about a robot that could read minds. Only one of its kind, before or since. So yeah, that will be that will be an interesting one to go through. Especially, I do vaguely remember it, and she is not the most human of people, and is very, very controlled. Like she's not very social, I guess I should say. I mean, she also likes robots more than she likes people. And I want to say that part of it is the robot gets in her head and is basically, you almost see her being romantically seduced in just having a connection, a social connection with the robot, because it's able to get into her mind and manipulate her. I think that is part of it. I don't know. It has been used, and as I said, this is not one that I remember that clearly. Neither is Catch the Rabbit. I was recognizing stuff as I was reading it. I probably will with Liar as well. But it is definitely not one that stands out clearly. Whereas I think it's Little Lost Robot is, and Evidence and the Inevitable Conflict. Both of those three, if I'm remembering which one Little Lost Robot is. I do remember clearly 3 of the stories. And I really do like them. All 3, well no, 2 of them are very much directly about her. The third one, I'm not actually sure if she's in it or if she's just conveying it. I don't remember that. But the Inevitable Conflict is an interesting one. So yeah. See you next time.